What's going on, all you wild gladiator fans out there? Your two favorite jousters are back tonight, and we're back to talk about a documentary of a show that we grew up watching back in the 90s, the late 80s, early 90s, that we still remember and talk about to this day. You know, it has that big nostalgia factor, a big part of our childhood. And we are talking about the brand new Netflix documentary, Muscles and Mayhem, an unauthorized story of the American Gladiators.
Into downward spiral was pretty terrible.
There wasn't a chance in hell this was going to continue to air.
Oh man, what a wild show this was back from our childhood. These big behemoths, men and women taking on ordinary contestants going up to compete in an awesome obstacle course set up and really cool games that they set up. Kind of a mix of, football and cage fighting and, everything all rolled into one, like the old gladiator days, obviously back in ancient Rome. They introduced it to the masses with these, games that they could play that they'd have people try out for and then, come and play on live TV. And then they'd go on to do like championship of the American Gladiators. And they had to go up against these wild gladiators, Nitro, Malibu, Storm, Ice, these wild names. Gemini. And that's what this documentary, Gemini. And that's really what this documentary shows. It shows you from the beginning, its inception, how it started, and followed all the gladiators and how their lives were impacted, and what happened in the end of the story of American Gladiators.
Yeah, Gemini was the first American Gladiator. He was a former football player. He was a massive dude, big black guy, and I remember, he was, the intro of the series talking about the inception of this and bringing in all the other gladiators. But the one I really thought was interesting was Danny Lee Clark. He was Nitro. His story was pretty good, like what he went through being American Gladiator back then. Womanizer, drugs, steroids, especially steroids. They all got into that, how massive they were back then. But they would go against the normal Joe Blow, and so they'd have some people on, contestants, that would actually kick their asses too at the same time. So American Gladiators, they went through a lot, just like a wrestler did back in the day.
Yeah, this documentary shows how it began, how it was terribly produced. It looked very, cheaply made. They were in these buildings and they had like a bunch of styrofoam and stuff. So it really took, a producer to come on and really fully flesh out this show and make it into what it, we remember, much better produced, and, with the distinct design of the stage there where they had the gladiator matches and all that. But really fun show from back in the day. You really rooted for the regular guys to beat these big, giants of people that were really athletic, really strong. And you really tuned in to, see them show off and see if anybody could compete with them. And that was really fun to see the whole behind the scenes story with, people involved in buying the company and how they were able to take it from like a rinky dink thing and make it into this massive juggernaut that it was in the 90s. Also interesting to hear from the old gladiators, like you mentioned, Nitro, putting a human face on it. These are people. They're not just, big giant people that are on American Gladiators. They're actually human beings. And there's a reason why they're doing this at the time. And, it goes through all the relationships between them, their ups and downs. Learning about how they didn't really make a lot of money from this show back in the day was surprising to me, with all the, merchandise that was available. That was an interesting part of this documentary.
It was a big part of pop culture, late 80s, early 90s. I think it was on for 6 seasons, 7 seasons. But yeah, it was a big part of my childhood watching that. I'd watch reruns in USA back then. I love this game behind me. It was like giant Q-tips. They would knock each other off. Yeah. Another one was the obstacle course with like them shooting tennis balls.
Yeah, that was cool.
I love that one.
Yeah.
They had a bunch of different ones they go through, but it was fun just watching the contestants and the gladiators getting their asses kicked. But just a big part of my childhood. Really interesting documentary, diving into these characters. I haven't seen these people in like 30 years. So it's really cool seeing where they're at in life. A lot of them are doing pretty well, have their own businesses or doing whatever. So, it really worked out for them. And it's really interesting, seeing this documentary about the American Gladiators, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah, 5 episodes streaming on Netflix now. everybody should tune into this. It's a good documentary. The episodes are, from 30 to 40 minutes. So a quick binge, and it'll take you back, to back in the day when this awesome show was airing. And they recently, tried to redo it a couple of years ago with Hulk Hogan as the host. Just didn't have the same feel, just couldn't do it. But supposedly there are some things in the works here. I know they've been trying to do a movie based on this somehow. And the guy that started it all, he really wants to continue this in some way or some form. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe this show will come back in some sort of iteration in the future on a streaming site or something.
I hope
with
not.
that, I know, right? Yeah, just
I
keep
hope
it
not.
back then. Yeah,
Yeah, it's not going to work because it's just the magic back in the 80s and 90s just don't have it anymore. Won't work.
Yeah, exactly. Before social media, when everybody was tuning in at the same time, you talked about it. It just was part of the cultural zeitgeist back in the day. It would be different now. But yeah, going back and watching this series on Netflix was a fun time, a fun watch. And with that being said, I'm going to give Muscles and Mayhem a 4 out of 5 Malibu hair pieces.
Oh, Malibu, one of my favorites. I always loved him because he looked like a Lost Boy. He was like in Malibu, California, like surfer guy, but I always thought he looked like one of the Lost Boys. You're one of us now.
Exactly. He also reminded me of the Beauty and the Beast guy.
Yeah.
That looked like the lion. Yeah.
the same hair, but
Ron Perlman, yeah.
That look wouldn't work today, but it worked back then, and he was one of my favorites. But yeah, really great documentary. I love all the animation in this series. The 5 episodes, they have all the 80s retro vibrant colors, and you got the 80s retro wave music playing, synth wave back then. It was awesome. Really captured that time period perfectly. You just think drugs and being an American Gladiator. Must have been a good time and a fun ride back then, but had a great time with this. Definitely check it out on Netflix. So I'm going to give this Muscles and Mayhem a 4 out of 5. Ooh, Gemini hair pieces.
So we want to hear what you guys thought of the Netflix limited series, Muscles and Mayhem. Let us know in the comment section below. And as always, don't forget to click like and subscribe. Also, follow along with us on all our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, for all the latest and greatest TV, movie news, and reviews.
That's right. Keep an eye on this YouTube channel. We're going to be reviewing movies and TV shows all summer long, and things are only getting hotter in here.
Until the next Cinephellas TV review, cheers!
That's tubular, boy.